Okay, good evening. We will call to order the regular council meeting of February the 22nd. And there are yellow pages, the introduction of new business and supplementary information. If I can get approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Pearson.
Second.
Councillor Casper. All in favor? Opposed? Carried? And we'll look at the adoption of council and the committee of the whole meeting minutes of February the 9th, 2016, the regular council meeting. Councillor Parkinson, Councillor Casper. Is any comments or anything in terms of omissions or? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried? Receipt of the draft council committee minutes for information from February the 2nd. Move receipt. Parks and Trails. Councillor Parkinson, second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have a delegation this evening to present to council. Shirley Rudball, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your last name, and Rob Berry on the Sewell Road right-of-way. If you're present, please come forward. Yeah, just come forward and have a seat, please. Yes. And just would like to draw your attention that a delegation is 5 minutes in length. Thank you. So welcome. And if you can push your microphone, please. Yes, there you go. And how do you pronounce your last name, please?
You did very well. It's actually Roadball.
Roadball? Okay.
Roadball, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, my name is Shirley Roadball. My husband, Case, and I live at 6283 Sewell Road, right at the end of the developed paved section of this road. We own 4.5 acres of riverfront property designated as agricultural land and have lived at this address for the past 37 years. Our property borders the Sooke River as well. Last year, along with many of our neighbours, our Sewell Road neighbours, we spoke against the idea of developing the Sewell Road allowance as a Galloping Goose connector trail and walking bridge across Sooke River. And at that time, Council responded by deciding to remove Sewell Road as a choice for this project and to shelve the idea of building a pedestrian bridge across the river for the next 3 years. Our question for Council at this point is, are you interested in discussing the sale of the Sewell Road allowance, which borders our property at 6283 Sewell Road on one side from the end of the developed road to the river, and on the other side, combined borders of neighbours Arthur and Elizabeth Dennison of 6284 Sewell Road, they're in Cuba at the moment, and Sheila and Rob Berry at 6290 Sewell Road on the other side. In the past 12 months, Council has sold a different road allowance to an individual landowner for a reasonable purchase price, which sets a precedence for such a decision. If Council has a strong interest in considering the sale of the Sewell Road allowance, we, the bordering neighbours, are prepared to follow due process for such an application, which, as you know, involves rather a large fee. As this is an expensive process, we're asking Council for some guidance before making an official application. It would be a great relief to us, to my husband and I, to be able to protect our privacy by purchasing a portion of the Sewell Road allowance that borders our home, just 15 feet from the side of our house. So that's my part of it. And my neighbour Rob has more to tell you.
So during that process, Rob Berry. Thank you. Rob Berry, 6290 Sewell Road, and my wife Sheila Needs. Last year when we approached Council regarding the potential crossing, we asked what it would take to purchase that property that divides both of our properties in a third. And they suggested a report should be made, which was sent to us. I think I made a note of that report for information, May 11, 2015. And in that report, they basically say why council would sell or wouldn't sell properties that were original right-of-ways. So I just went through that point by point. That's why some of the photos and that sort of thing, because not everybody's been down to that property. And we invite you to come down, have a look for yourselves. It looks nice from an aerial view, but once you get on your feet on the ground, you'll see some of the difficulties in never using it for park or roadways or whatever. So basically, the analysis was dedicated in 1915. It was basically a line drawn on a map from Victoria, and I pulled out the old records from the archives on that one. So no one actually came out to see what it was about. Talking about subdivisions, it was all put into floodplain and agricultural land, so it's not subdividable land, and we don't have any potential development there and don't want to develop the land. We just want to keep it as it is for various reasons. So if you just flip through to some of those pages, the first one shows the Sooke River Park just down the road, which obviously, for obvious reason, that makes a great parkway. There's waterways down there. There's a fjord and that sort of thing. So there's lots of potential for boardwalks, for nature walks, bird watching, that sort of thing, for the high school, schools, and the public. And I'd be willing to obviously put money towards that or help with that sort of thing, because I think it's a great spot. If anybody's been down there, it's quite nice. The next page shows basically the actual Sewell Road, which was very narrow. It was supposed to be dedicated to lane several years back and didn't make it through that process. But anyway, so it is very narrow. It's heavily treed. And at the other end where the road stops before it drops off the bank, there's not much there for parking instead of. So if you were to try to make it into a 30-foot wide park all the way down to the river, it'd be very difficult to build that. It'd be expensive, and I don't know where you would park or where you do turnarounds and all that sort of stuff. So I just kind of wanted to show that as a visual. Right? Next page just shows down the lower bank. So if you look up from there up to the road, it's a 45-degree bank. It's roughly 100 feet long, and it drops off into that lower bank. The next one is standing there looking towards that large cedar tree, which would have to get cut down or cut out to get down to the river, and then it drops down from there, the next page, into Baker Creek, which is a salmon-bearing creek. And during the summertime, the bears and the deer roam through there. And obviously, if it was to be built as a park or some kind of a use for that, there would have to be fences built on both sides, which is going to obviously interfere with the natural flow of nature and that sort of thing. So then, of course, in the wintertime, it's really winter, fall, and spring, that entire field floods continually. So to put a bridge across Baker Creek, which you'd have to do if you're going to have access down to the river, you'd have to pull it out. So it would be a seasonal bridge that you'd have to man to put in, pull back out again, and I don't know if you do boardwalks or whatever. And the following page is Case and Shirley from flood years back. That wharf there was a bridge over Baker Creek, which you can see basically floats away. So the land is very difficult to develop as a park or some kind of an access. And once you get to the end of the river, it basically stops. The bank drops off 3 feet, and there's no beach. So it's just the river just rushes by there. Yeah, I mean, that was a big discussion about why it wasn't a very good spot to have a potential bridge, because it's such large trees and stumps and such are washed down that river every year. Every time there's a flood, you're basically going to wipe out anything that's there. That one picture shows a fence going across there. That's gone this year. That ended up somewhere down to Brownie Camp. So, and the very last picture is Ed Abscanavan up the hill, the very last property up the hill. He has farming equipment. He comes and he hays all the neighbors' properties there. So, yeah, just kind of, basically we just want to retain that land, keep the wildlife corridor open. The bears and the deer and everything have been pushed out of Sun River from Phillips Road across, and it creates great access for them to wander up and down. And basically we'd like to have it for haying, the lower field, upper field. We already have an organic garden growing. We'd like to expand that into the next garden, so we're not looking for developing. We just want to retain it and use it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments from council or questions? Councillor Berger, and then Councillor Pearson.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I actually was trespassing on your property today. I went down there with my son, and I have a small car, and it's extremely hard to turn around. And actually, I think Ms. Robal, I went into your driveway to turn around because it is quite hard to maneuver down there. So I agree with you. Access is very hard. I'm not sure, though. This might have to go back to our CAO. I'm not sure how appropriate it is, though, for council to discuss a sale or a possible sale. I'm just wondering what's the best avenue to discuss.
I'm going to look to our corporate officer for some direction on this one.
I would say that any discussions on a land sale should be in camera.
And that's what I suspected, so I wasn't sure where we should go from here.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Thank you, Councillor Berger. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Casper.
Well, first of all, thanks for your presentation, and I think that the Sewell Road has cropped up a number of times for us in the last 4 years since I've been on council. But there's been a number of right-of-ways and roadways that were drawn on the map, like you say, from Victoria way back in history with, somebody had great intentions. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, the West Coast Road, we sold a piece of that to the people that were on both sides of, which is a major highway. So you can imagine that. So I'm not opposed to the idea of turning this over to the landowners. And I think what protects us is the zoning or the future development. If somebody does want to develop it, then they have to provide access and roadways to subdivide their property if it so falls within that zoning and things like that. So that's the appropriate time to actually get road access. I guess my recommendation would be to send this back to our engineering staff to look at the potential. What would he think in a general consensus? Because I think that was part of our original discussion, was to send that back through the chair to the CAO, back to Mr. Howitt and company, or Mr. Howitt's department, to say, what does this look like for us in the future? Because physically, if you go look at it, it doesn't look like it's the right place for a road. There's a swamp, there's things. I want to know why you didn't take a picture of the bears in the middle of winter, but anyways, no, I see why you did.
Swimming.
Yeah. But really, I think that there's a practical sense that has to take place in this. There's a pragmatic piece to this, and I think that our engineering staff should look at it to see if it makes sense. Because it really, the presentation tonight looks like it to me. It doesn't make sense for us to retain this as a road. So that's my general consensus.
Councillor Casper.
Well, I would concur, and I would just like to say that I would encourage the adjoining property owners to actually officially make an application to the district, and then that gets the ball rolling. And that's been the practice in the past, where if there's been a property owner on one side of a road right-of-way and another, because we have to show fairness to both sides of the road, that there is indeed an interest. And if there is no interest on one side, then the others could actually want to pursue the entire purchase. That's what we've done in the past for parkland and road right-of-ways that have been disposed of by the district. And that's been the historical practice here. So I don't know if that's what we should do or shouldn't do. But
Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to remind council that there is a report dated May 11, 2015, where staff in engineering did in fact look at the implications of this. It's part of your package. And I think because any potential sale of land should be in camera, we should probably cease discussion at this table right now and move to bring it in camera at our next meeting.
Do we have a motion then to move this matter? Thank you, Councillor Parkinson. Second, Councillor Logans. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for listening and giving us guidance.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us into the public question and comment period. There are 2 minutes time limit per person, and we have been advised by our lawyer that public question and comment period must be related to the items on the agenda. I just want to make sure that people are aware of that. So anybody who'd like to come forward? And if I could, I've just got something I'd like to read. The public question and comment period is limited to 10 minutes in duration unless extended by council. A member of the public may have 2 minutes during the public and question comment period to address council on items on the agenda for the meeting. If you wish to address council, please begin by stating your first name and your last name, and please include the spelling of your last name and your address for the record. A copy of the agenda has been made available for your reference. Please advise which agenda item you wish to speak to prior to beginning your comments. Thank you.
My name is Diane Bernard. Thank you. Diane Bernard. My address is 2018 Penang Road, and I live here in Souk. I'm a resident. And my questions are related to the agenda. My first question is under the reports. It's in the minutes of the last meeting. It's under the report section of Mayor and Council, and it's noted the need to ensure that the district is following good governance practices, implementing of a strategic plan, including fiscal responsibility. My question is that these are relevant topics, obviously. They're noted there. And my question is to why my delegation presentation was denied on those topics. Second on the topic of the agenda, my question is related right to the regular council meeting agenda, where it says delegations, requests to address council. I want to note that my name is not there. I did make a request to address council. It doesn't say anything here about being denied, delayed, or turned away, but it doesn't note that I made that request and that I met the deadline and that it was denied. So I want that to be noted. On my third question, again, it relates directly to the minutes. I just want to be assured, who is the corporate officer?
The corporate officer is an acting corporate officer, and that is Ms. Tina Hansen.
Okay, because I want to just note that in the bylaw where I was denied to make a presentation, it says council denies me or the corporate officer. So who did that?
I take responsibility. You were asked, Ms. Bernard. Part of our procedural bylaw requires that council only hears that information for which it has jurisdiction. Your request was vague, and I asked the CAO to ask for clarification, and you refused to do that.
No, I did that in a telephone conversation with her. Yeah, I just want to point out that section 422, it says council or the corporate officer may refuse.
And as the acting mayor on behalf of council, I made that decision.
Okay.
And I own it.
All right, thank you. Those are my questions. And when you guys can, let me know the answers, I'd appreciate it. I appreciate the answer on that one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak before council?
Okay, Jeff, Bateman, Bateman, 7083 Briarwood Place. Now, I'm going to refer to the minutes of February 9th, which is on page 3 of the agenda package. Now, seemingly for the first time in District of Souk history, the content of public comments are not documented in meeting minutes, I note. And, I look back to 1999, and in fact, from that point onwards, from the first meeting on December 13th, 1999, public comments have been given cursory detail. And so this seems to be a change. So I have a question. Even if details of what Mr. Christensen said at the February 9th meeting aren't in the written public record, am I free to speak to his comments tonight?
You're out of order, Ms. Parkinson, Councillor Parkinson. Ms. Sullivan?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
And we're just wanting to know why or how the change occurred in terms of the reporting out of the minutes, that they are now, they're not.
Actually, Acting Mayor
Sorry.
Ray, that's not my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My question is, can I respond to Mr. Christensen's comments of February 9th?
Yes,
If I may, Madam Chair, I'd say that that's out of order because while you could speak to items on the agenda as the minutes as a whole, getting into the items on the minutes would mean that you could speak to an item in perpetuity because that would become part of the minutes of the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting. His comments are not an item on this agenda, and I appreciate his question, but you could see how that would perpetuate.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Okay, then I'd like to just file that as a note
Okay.
that hopefully public comments, the content thereof, can be documented in future meeting minutes. Okay, I'll skip all of that and just quickly, since I know my time's running out, page 25, I trust council and staff will quickly follow up on the Parks and Trail Advisory Committee's request for budget, given all the public interest in what will be happening at John Phillips Memorial Park. Page 27, the RCMP report, I see that statistics regarding auto and home thefts below 5,000 continue apace this year. So I hope everyone in town is remembering to lock this, that, and everything. Page 41, the council readers file. I'm wondering whether these various bits of correspondence that are available for the public to read online. For example, I'm curious what the grumpy taxpayers of Victoria had to say about the wages of civic employees. Finally, at the last council meeting, I heard that there was to be a What's New section on the district's website, and as of yet, I can't find that. So I suppose that's upcoming. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. There was a question there, but that's fine. Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we will move into reports requiring action. RA1, the 2016 sponsorships, corporate service presentation, and council to consider recommendation.
Your Worship and Council, this report comes forward each year as staff receive several requests for sponsorship advertising from local nonprofit organizations to place ads in catalogs, booklets, or programs for various community events. Sponsorship ads are funded under the Advertising and Communications or Public Government and Relations budgets.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, through the chair to you, Ms. Hanson. Are these the same amounts that they asked for last year?
Yes, these are from last year's amounts.
Okay.
Based on
so this is
requests.
just that we're just going to go and renew these sponsorships if they're approved tonight?
If they come forward and request them.
Okay. One other question in there is that the fly fishing presentation, the West Coast Fly Fishers, they do that at Journey Middle School. They just recently made a delegation appearance here.
Yes, they did. And we've included the West Coast Fly Fishers because staff have confirmed that they are not eligible for a community grant. Their program runs from April to June, and so they wouldn't qualify based on they would be receiving a retro grant.
Okay. So we would convert them to a sponsorship as suggested at that council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Okay, Councillor Casper, Councillor Parkinson. Any further comment? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, carried. And the second item is the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee recommendations to Council. And Mr. Ziegler, I believe you'd like to speak to this. If you'd like to come forward.
Thank you. My name is Mark Ziegler, and I'm a resident of Souk, 2270 Pond Place. I'd like to recognize that Debbie Clarkson is also on I'm on the District Parks and Trails Advisory Committee, and Brenda Parkinson is the council representative on the committee, and I'm speaking on behalf of the committee this evening. And On our official minutes for January 12th, we recommended the council moved to recommend that council provide the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee with a projected budget for priority projects within John Phillips Memorial Park. And most of us are aware that there was a study that was done, completed in 2006, the John Phillips Park Trust Committee's final report. And it was a really excellent report, and it came up with sort of 12 areas of potential development. But we recognize, I know the budget process is underway with council, that we can't lay all 12 on you. So we had a consultation, a very well-attended consultation at Sea Park on February 10th, and Councillor Ray was there, and Parkinson. Thank you for those that came. And the staff is working very hard. We had sort of a vote sticker exercise to see what the true priorities were, and the staff is working to kind of roll up the results. We're meeting on March 1st. So not to contradict the request or recommendation to you that you provide us with a budget, projected budget for the year, but although we've made this request, the sort of scope of the particular projects won't really be known until our March 1st meeting. But if there could be some kind of a placeholder put into the budget, we can't really even give you a notional amount right now. It may be that the cheaper items of these 12 project areas are the ones that are given the most support, things like toilets and benches. Or there may be interest in some more ambitious projects, like a water park. I don't know. But if council could be patient, we'd like to stay with this recommendation and provide more information after our March 1st meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Comments? Councillor Casper?
So you're asking us to hold off on doing something until your work is completed, when you've completed all the analysis of the public input, and then come back to us, correct?
Correct. We hope that after our March 1st meeting, we'll have 2 or 3 real priorities that we can present to you, but we just didn't want to miss the budget planning vote. We feel that it's been a long time since the 2006 study, and that we really would like to move ahead with some improvements to John Phillips Memorial Park this year.
Okay. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. That's excellent, because when I read this recommendation, I'm thinking, what is this? Approve a budget for something we don't know what it is. That's excellent explanation tonight.
Thank you.
And I applaud you and the committee and Councillor Parkinson for working towards this, because I think it's long overdue, and I think that this is the time where we can really start making some things happen and get some traction in the ground. So I'm fully in support of putting a placeholder in there and waiting for your committee's work. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Just not to extend my time too much, just there were 2 other priorities that we're really interested in on Parks and Trails in the district, and I won't be talking about them tonight. But one is a multi-use trail from Goodmere Road to the harbour. Another one is perhaps the creation of a trail from Sun River to Poirier School, and Acting Mayor Terry Ray is well aware of that. And just wanted to make a quick mention that there are 2 other key priorities for us right now.
Councillor Logans.
Thanks for your presentation. I do have a question. Hopefully you're able to sort of answer it, but when you're speaking of a placeholder, is there a range that we can be expecting at all? I know I did look at the survey and noticed there was like a dollar sign and $2 or $3 signs, but what does that mean? 0 to $1 million or beyond?
I doubt very much it's going to be anywhere near $1 million. I mean, we have to be reasonable in our expectations. I think it would be incorrect for me to make a guess at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. And just for your information, our Director of Finance, Mr. Blackhall, is also here this evening, so he's aware of your request. And Councillor Pearson?
I was just going to make a motion that the Finance Committee and the planning put a placeholder in anticipation of something coming. I'm sure how that was going to sound as a motion.
Yes. At current, though, we don't have a Finance Committee. I think the information is here. Mr. Blackhall is aware. And so we'll request, if you could bring something back forward to us, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Ziegler.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings us to reports for information. R1-1, the RCMP Monthly Mayor Report, January 2016.
I'll move receipt.
Councillor Casper.
Second.
Councillor Pearson, comments?
Yeah, it is interesting is that I've had several phone calls lately over minor intrusions into people's property, things going missing like firewood and small tools, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's consistent with our request to increase the RCMP by one member, and I think we've got that in our 2016-2017 plan, if I can remember correctly. Is that right, Mr. Blackhall, through the chair? So, again, it's something that we have to keep our eye on, and again, it was a member of the public that brought that up tonight. So it is becoming a little more apparent, and I think we don't have to look too hard to see that there is some trouble around our downtown. So, thank you.
My button. Souk Fire Rescue Service Quarterly Report. And I noticed that, thank you, Councillor Casper, R12 is the yellow paper, has supplementary information. Yes, Councillor Casper?
I was going to move receipt of it, but I was also wondering if we could refer this to the Fire Commission, this information?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I would make that motion that we receive the information and also refer the reports to the Fire Commission.
Second, Councillor Pearson. Any further comment or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Okay, next is the mayor and council reports, verbal updates. Is there anyone who would like to go first? I'll start from my left this time, Councillor Berger.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I'll just touch on with the Seapark Commission that I'm a part of, the referendum to potentially purchase what's existing Emmanuel Creek Golf Course will be happening in April. I believe it's the exact same day as the Rotary Fair, and I want to say that's the 30th, but oh, great, thank you. So there'll be lots of public hearings around that as well. There's going to be a public info session in every single community within the regional district, so there'll be one or two within the District of Souk. There'll be one in Shirley, Port Renfrew, East Souk. So everyone will have a chance to come out and ask any questions and see the overview map of what it looks like. So that will be fantastic. And also with the South Vancouver Island Economic Development Association, which I was a member of. I had a few emails, and I missed the last meeting. I'll apologize, the council meeting to report on it. So the first meeting I attended, it was a fantastic Economic Development Commission, and I left there feeling very excited that this was an excellent regional economic development initiative. However, once the priorities were set, I really felt that Souk would be left in the wayside. The 5 top priorities really dealt with the downtown core and the peninsula around the airport and a few other things out in Saanich. So I came back to my fellow councillors and talked to them and thought that we would be sort of left. We were almost like the backyard again. We were a bit too far from the town core and the top 5 priorities. So my hopes, and I know there's been discussions with the West Shore, and I believe our CAO is on it right now, I would love to see the West Shore creating a regional West Shore Economic Development Association or Commission, which would directly target Souk, Colwood, Langford, Metchosin, and us to the west. So us that aren't really, we won't get picked up really as much as we would being a part of a capital regional core top priorities. Other than that, I had a wonderful chat. I just passed the acting mayor a booklet. I went and talked about local governance to at John Muir Elementary School. I go almost every school, at least twice a year, and talk to the grade 4 students about local government and they're fantastic. I always ask them what they like best about Sooke and what's one thing that they'd like to see differently. And the grade 3 class at John Muir made a booklet for the mayor, so she can do some homework on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berger. Councillor Pearson.
No, nothing to report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Casper.
Yes, I've attended Regional Parks Committee meeting, and at our earlier session today, we had a presentation from the Nature Trail Society advocating more broader, extensive public use of trails in our regional park system. I also attended the regional board meeting, which I think probably the most controversial item was the matter of banning all public access to the Leech River lands. Those are lands that were purchased by the Capital Regional District some time ago, and there was a recommendation from the CRD Water Commission that no further public access be allowed in those lands. That vote was defeated. That recommendation was defeated. I voted not to approve the bylaw, which would have restricted the access, because I feel that not all of those lands have an impact on any future water supply or drinking water for our water system, and it's quite well off into the future as to whether or not waters from the Leech River will ever be used as a supplementary water supply for the Greater Victoria Water District system, which is Sooke Lake. Some are predicting it could be as long as 50 years. We're one of the very few jurisdictions that does not allow registered, monitored, supervised, or limited public access in British Columbia, for that matter, most parts of North America. We're very unique. I'm not advocating public access in the Greater Victoria Water District system, but when the Leech River lands were purchased, I was reminded, as other members were reminded, by board members that were around the table at that time when the lands were purchased, that they weren't purchased to outright ban public access. So that matter, no doubt, will come back to the board because the Water Commission, which I also serve on, voted to have the matter go back to the board. So I'm sure you're going to hear some more discussions around that. And just to follow up on the Sea Park referendum, the regional board approved the wording of the referendum so that it's very clear, so that people will not be, have any doubt as to what the purpose is. It will have all the facts and figures. And just to echo what Councillor Berger said, is that the information sessions are designed in order to give impartial public information. It's not swayed one way or the other, just so that voters are fully informed of what, if any, of the cost implications are on it. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Casper. Councillor Logan.
I'm hoping I can do this, but I was wondering if I could use my time to make a motion to invite Chief Sorensen back up to the mic to speak on what has been happening with the fire department, because I would like to hear. There's been a lot going on, and he's probably got a lot more interesting things than I have to say.
Ms. Sullivan? We're in the report section.
We're in the report section, and I don't think that's appropriate. I think if we want to hear from our chief, then we can put him on a separate agenda item at a future date.
He's on the agenda.
Oh, right.
And he's sat at the table.
Chief, do you have anything to add?
Okay. Well, Chief Sorensen, if you'd like to come to the table. Maybe Councillor Logans, did you have some specific questions that you'd like to ask of him?
I just know there's been a lot going on. It seems like it's been a bit of a busy month, so if you wanted to give us a quick overview of what you guys have been up to and just on the report. Thanks.
Yeah, sure, through worship. Yeah, it's been a rather hectic start of the year, I guess. 3 structure fires in the last 2.5 weeks, quite a few car accidents, the usual assortment of medical calls, first responder calls. Yesterday was a little exciting with the abandoned barn fire. Was made a little more interesting in that our recruit class was on their way back from training in Machosen, so they happened to be in the truck. And so they got to go to their first fire yesterday. So for them, it was pretty exciting. But they did very well. We did call in mutual aid, but because it was an abandoned barn, we didn't end up using them because we weren't going to put anybody inside and risk them for something they were going to tear down for a subdivision anyway. So, recruit training is going very well. They're just over halfway through, and they're all doing very well. So I expect that they will be on strength about mid-April as regular members.
Yes, Councillor Parkinson.
I just think that it's good to hear from the chief because you read so many different things on Facebook on what's going on, so you don't know what is actually what. So it's always good to have it from you. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Councillor Logans, did you have anything else to update council on? Okay, thank you. Councillor Parkinson?
The only thing was going to the workshop for the Parks and Trails, which you've all been informed of. So it was a great turnout and well done. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Parkinson. I'd like to take a few moments to talk about social media and the comments that have been made over the past couple of months. There are very few things we can control in our lives. We certainly cannot control world events, economics, and with technology today, we cannot control social media. But my integrity is one of the few things in life that I do have control of. I've worked hard all of my life, in my personal life and with family and friends. My professional career as a probation officer, officer of the court, peace officer, and in my role as a counselor for the people of Sooke. I strive for due process, fairness, kindness, compassion, and honesty. And I tell the whole story, even if it doesn't go in my favor. I take responsibility for when I make mistakes. I own up to them. I don't try to hide them under the carpet and hope it'll go away. As a councillor, my role is always to do what the citizens of Sooke want. It's hard to find the balance sometimes between special interest groups and the quiet majority. When there have been decisions that have been high profile in the community and I've taken a position to not support a motion, I can spend hours crafting my reasons to ensure that the community understands my thinking, what I considered, and why I did not support it. I believe that this commitment to due process and fairness is why I was elected to a second term, not only re-elected, but topping the polls with 56% of the vote. I also believe I am respectful to all of the citizens of Sooke, regardless of whether they support me or not. So I'm quite at a loss that after 4 years of serving as a councillor, that all of a sudden my integrity has been called into question on social media. Is it personal? Is it political? Or is it just because people who post don't actually fully understand the issue? I am taken aback by the meanness and negativity that has transpired on many social media sites, inaccuracy in articles, and comments that encourage and promote more innuendo. Posts that don't give the whole story, people being selective of what they post, distorting the truth. Mayor Tate and I have had a number of discussions on this over the last couple of years. What does one do? How does one respond? How do you correct the misinformation and the things that are incorrect? You worry if you respond, will it just create more questions? Can you answer them? Some people say don't say anything, and others, you have to say something. So as Mayor Tate once commented, I'm going to take a leap of faith, and I'm going to provide information this evening to hopefully give some context to some things I cannot comment about because the law says I cannot. Firstly, the transparency of the hiring of the CAO. A hiring committee was struck with Councillor Pearson, Councillor Casper, and myself as the chair. As the chair, my only responsibility was to lead the process, and between August and November, I would say that I spent at least somewhere between 35 and 40 hours over and above my full-time job and council duties. There's no extra pay for any of us sitting on this committee. The CAO posting was posted in 2 career ad sections in the Time Colonist and the Vancouver Sun, and was also posted on 4 internet sites, Workopolis, Indeed, Civic Info, BC, and of course the District of Sauk website. There are only 2 pieces of legislation that guides municipalities and their work, the Local Government Act and the Community Charter. So to be very clear, I did not hire the CAO. The hiring committee did not hire the CAO. Council hired the CAO. And I'm not sure if everyone is aware, given the posts on social media, that the way council works, 1 person, 1 vote. So again, for the record, council hired Ms. Sullivan. After the hiring of the CAO, social media reported a story on the standards of conduct of the BC Public Service Agency, which had oversight for municipalities. This is totally incorrect. The BC Public Service Agency is an arm of the provincial government to oversee the some 30,000 employees that work for the provincial government. This agency has absolutely no responsibility or role in municipal government. District of Sauk staffing. There can be no discussion here. In 1993, the province of British Columbia brought in the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, which outlines what information can be disclosed and what cannot be disclosed. There has been a huge push on social media demanding that council or staff release information that relates to the personal information that is clearly protected under this legislation. Section 74.1 outlines the privacy protection offences, and under Section 74.1(5)(c) it reads, "A person who commits an offence under this section is liable, and in the case of a corporation, which the District of Sauk is, to a fine up to $500,000. Should anyone with the District of Sauk, council or staff, provide any information to anyone, the District of Sauk faces that $500,000 penalty, and that is $500,000 of your taxpayers' money. On top of that, the person whose personal information was divulged could sue the District of Sauk as well. Finally, the District of Sauk procedural bylaw. This procedural bylaw was last amended in 2009, so I didn't write it. As I said earlier, I didn't vote on it, I didn't pass it. It's my job to follow it. And stands as the legislation that sets out exactly how the business of council is to be conducted in its meetings. Social media has been vicious towards me on my positions that 1, speakers must speak to items on the agenda only, including agendas of the Committee of the Whole, and 2, vague applications to speak as a delegation require clarity to ensure that the topic is under the jurisdiction of this council. Starting with the second one first, it's very clear in the procedural bylaw that all matters coming before council must be within the jurisdiction of the council. It is incumbent of the chair of the meeting to ensure that that rule is followed. To not do so is in violation of our procedures bylaw. There were some comments about best practices. Best practices don't apply to the law. The law is the law, whether we agree with it or not. There was also a comment on social media that the district does not refuse delegations. That is also incorrect. As acting mayor, I signed a letter to an applicant refusing them to appear as a delegation in mid-January of this year. The decision to refuse the delegation came from the corporate officer's desk. Now, on the first piece, that speakers must speak to items on the agenda only. Today, Lidstone and Company, the district's lawyers, confirmed my position on this to be correct, that individuals can only speak to those items on the agenda of all committees of council, and that includes both regular council meetings and the Committee of the Whole. I hope this helps provide better context and clarity to the community of Sauk. As council, we want to make sure that the rules are applied fairly and appropriately. But I do think what it does ask this council is, if this procedural bylaw is not in the interest of the District of Sauk, then we need to take a look at it. Thank you. And with that, no, thank you, sorry. That will lead us into the RI4 CAO update verbal. Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, Your Worship. For any organization to be effective, all of the people involved must understand what they're trying to accomplish as a group and what they're responsible for as individuals. There is no such thing as one role being more important than any other. There are only different roles that work together. The captain of the ship cannot steer if the mechanic does not have the engines running. When people understand how their roles complement one another, they can be the most effective in accomplishing what needs to be done. Effective public service governance, just like any private sector company, is also based on role clarity. Local governance comprises both elected officials and administrative staff, who both have important roles to play in the success of a community. Members of council are elected by the community to represent their views and discuss the future of the area. Council's role is to understand the pulse of the community, to approve the policies and bylaws that clearly communicate how a community will be governed, and set the vision for the future. On the other side of the equation, administrative staff are hired for their expertise in particular areas to carry out the vision that Council has outlined. Staff bring a wealth of experience and is based wealth of experience in engineering, urban planning, and finance, just to name a few. This healthy relationship is based on an ongoing dialogue between Council's understanding of the community and administration's technical expertise. Conversely, staff are expected not to interfere with Council's interaction with the public, nor should Council tell staff how to do their jobs. All teams need leaders, which the Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer fulfill. The Mayor's role is to lead Council discussions and act as the public face of Council for all public matters, while the CAO's role is to lead and manage administrative staff in their daily duties, while they carry out the formal wishes of Council. The CAO does not set policy, nor does she act in a political manner. As the leader of the administration, she provides unbiased opinions to Council on the workings of the municipality. While the Mayor leads the governing of a community by building consensus on Council, the Mayor still represents only one vote on Council decisions. Her vote is an equal voice on the direction of a community. As well, it is not the Mayor's role to manage the workings of the municipality. Municipal Council has only one employee, and I've said this before, it's the CAO. Council holds the CAO accountable for the performance of municipal staff and the operations of the municipality. This healthy separation of roles is crucial for the effective leadership of a community, because when anyone understands their role, they can do it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. And that will take us to new business. And in the yellow sheets, bylaw number 6 NB1, bylaw number 630, zoning amendment bylaw 602. Council to consider the amendment. And who will you be speaking to this, Ms. Sullivan? Thank you.
Yes, this is a minor amendment that should have been included in the previous amended zoning bylaw. The changes we've made is number 2A by adding microbrewery and artesian industry to section 401.2, permitted uses, principal uses, and renumbering the subsections as appropriate. And then again in number D by adding immediately after section 401.8G, conditions of use, the following. 401.8H, gross floor area for a microbrewery must not exceed 500 meters squared. And 401.8I, gross floor area for artesian industry must not exceed 200 meters squared. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan, for your report tonight. I'll make the motion that we amend bylaw 630 to include the following uses: microbrewery and the artisan industry in a neighborhood commercial C1 zone, and add under conditions of use that the microbrewery not exceed 500 square meters, and the artisan industry not exceed 200 square meters.
Okay. Second, Councillor Logan's. Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried?
I'll move that council direct staff to schedule a public hearing in accordance with the Local Government Act and Community Charter notice requirements.
Seconded.
Councillor Casper, Councillor Pearson, any comment? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, correspondence requiring action. Correspondence dated February the 13th, 2016 from the Victoria Epilepsy and Parkinson's Center. Proclamation request Purple Day. It's on page 35. Councillor Pierce, Casper?
I'll move the request that a proclamation be issued. I think it's pretty standard, if that's okay.
Okay. Second, Councillor Logan's comment. Councillor Pearson?
I know last year we got this request a little late. Can we, at this, can I make a recommendation that we go buy some purple lights or something to put on the district office, just to say that we're supporting this? Because last year we got it too late and we didn't have time to find purple lights. So I'd like to add that to that. So is that all right? I know it sounds simple, but we were too late last year. We missed it, so it'd be nice to do that. So.
Okay, so I lost. You moved the motion. Okay, Councillor Logan seconded it. Comments by Councillor Pearson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. All right. Correspondence for information. Council reader file, January 2016.
I'll move.
Moved Councillor Berger, second Councillor Casper. Any comments? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Berger.
I just had one question. Through your worship to, I believe, Ms. Sullivan, the council reader file used to, it is in a public binder that someone from the public can come and just ask the front desk, just responding to Mr. Bateman's previous question, that they can request at the front counter of the district hall to read the reader file. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berger, for remembering that question. I appreciate that. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then the report of in-camera resolutions, R1C1. And that is from the February 9th, 2016 regular council meeting closed portion. The Board of Variance, a member appointment, moved and seconded to appoint Drew Johnson to the Board of Variance for a 3-year term, and that is that this resolution be released to the public. And as we have Mrs. Lewis here, I'd just like to publicly thank you for all your work on the Board of Variance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. If I could have a motion to close the meeting to the public, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Councillor Logans. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for being here this evening.